first in what we hope is a series of debates between myself and my opponent for the 36th District of the Virginia State Senate. I hope you all know, my name is Scott Surovell. I'm currently a member of the Virginia House of Delegates. I'm running representative of the 36th Senate District. And just before we get started, I want to say my opponent, Mayor Foreman, is not here tonight, or at least doesn't appear to be here tonight. We started discussions about these debates, I think about a month ago. I originally suggested we have 6. He talked to the newspapers and said he thought we got to have 10. We had our staff engaged on it. There's a series of letters, a couple of which are right up there, I guess. But it appears that Mr. Foreman's not coming tonight. We were unable to reach exact agreement on debates, and so we decided to simply reserve a town hall and to have a sort of Lincoln Douglas style debate where Mayor Foreman and I can simply ask each other questions just like Lincoln and Douglas did. We go for about 2 hours. If anybody from the public wanted to ask questions, we're welcome for them to ask questions. We were hoping he'd be here tonight. We never really got a clear answer as to whether he was coming or not, but he doesn't.
I've got the letter he sent me if you'd like to see it. I'm sure you've read it already.
I read his letter, and his letter never really clearly said whether he was coming or not. And I tweeted to him, and he didn't really clearly say yes or no. And I'd just like to note that Mayor Foreman's campaign manager is here, Shannon Duffy Daniels, and I'm happy for her to come up here and answer questions on behalf of her candidate. And the chairman of the Prince William County Republican Committee, Bill Card, is here, and I'm happy for him to stand as a surrogate as well to take questions or to answer for Mayor Foreman. I'm happy to debate Mayor Foreman or any of his surrogates whenever they'd like. And I think this is a pretty simple format, and I think it's pretty fair. And if any of them would like to come up here and debate, I'd be happy for them to come on up. Having said that, either you guys want to come up and stand in for the mayor?
Mayor will talk for himself.
I'm sure he will.
Time that he told you he would.
Did they hear why he's here? Could you explain why he's here?
They weren't able to come to an agreement with the staff.
About what?
About the date and time of this amendment.
He agreed to September and
Well, we're hoping to have a series of debates all across the district. There's 200,000 people in this district, a lot of different communities in this district. It stretches 52 miles from Fairfax County all the way down to Stafford County. We have 1 debate currently scheduled by the Potomac Local. There are 3 other candidate forums scheduled, which are very limited forums where people can't ask questions and isn't really debates, but there's only 1 debate really scheduled so far. I'm hoping we'll have a lot more. And it's our hope that we'll continue to schedule forums like this all across the district, and hopefully Mayor Foreman will choose to come to one finally. I think the voters are entitled to know where he stands on issues. So having said that, I'm going to talk about myself for a minute. I'm going to talk about myself. I'm going to talk about what I would like to do, some of my accomplishments, what I'd like to do, and then I'll be happy to open it up for, I guess we'll have a town hall, I guess, and open it up for questions from anybody who'd like to ask me any questions about where I stand on issues and what I intend to do. So first of all, as I told you all, my name is Scott Surovell. I'm a member of the Virginia House of Delegates. I represent about 80,000 people between Fort Belvoir and Alexandria. I'm a Northern Virginia native. My grandparents moved to Fairfax County in 1935. My father is a Mount Vernon High School graduate. My mother grew up in Southwest Virginia. I pretty much live in my grandparents' house today, about 2 doors down from the house I grew up in. Went to West Potomac High School, James Madison University, attended law school at the University of Virginia. Graduated law school, immediately left, started practicing law in Fairfax, where I've been practicing now for the last 19 years. My wife and Erin and I have been married for 16 years. We have 4 children. We attend Fairfax County Public Schools, West Potomac, Carl Sandburg, and Waynewood Elementaries. Very proud of them. They're great kids. You might see them out on the campaign trail wearing my shirts. Like my former soccer player here, Miss Ming. But in any event, I was elected, I said, I think back in 2009 in the fall. Since I was elected, I've been working on a lot of different things. Number 1 has been Route 1. The improvement of the Route 1 corridor has been my number 1 priority since I was elected. The minute I took my oath, I had a meeting with the VDOT administrator for Northern Virginia, and I said to him, what is it that I need to do to improve Route 1? We took a drive up and down Route 1. It was 14 miles, took us 2.5 hours. And By the time we got back, he had explained to me what I needed to do. And he said the number one thing you got to do is a study. And so we did a study. Senator Puller and I worked for 2 years to get the General Assembly to authorize a study. We got it funded. And our study was just completed in November. It was a $2 million study called the Route 1 Multimodal Transit Alternative Analysis Study. That study recommended that we build a median dedicated bus rapid transit system all the way down Route 1 to Fort Belvoir and all the way to Woodbridge VRE actually, and to build a 2-stop metro extension down to Highville Valley. And we did that study. It's been adopted by Fairfax County's Board of Supervisors, and we just started to get it funded by the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority. We've secured $16 million in the last 6 months to start the preliminary engineering and environmental studies necessary to bring those transit improvements. The second thing I've been working on is our public school system. I'm a Fairfax County public school graduate. I'm a graduate of 2 Virginia state-supported higher education universities. Public education got me and my family where I am today, and I feel very strongly about our public education system. Our system right now in Northern Virginia is underfunded. It's underfunded in Fairfax, it's underfunded in Prince William, it's underfunded in Stafford. And there's plenty of blame to go around on that. There's plenty of blame at the state level for that. The state government has not funded education where it should. We currently fund education lower than 2007 levels. It's one of the reasons I voted against many of the budgets that we've had in front of us. Our county governments are not funding education the way they should be. And you see that. Our teacher salaries aren't competitive. We have trailers at almost every single school in the Senate district. We have 0 universal pre-K program. Our Head Start program is wholly inadequate for what Route 1 needs. And our children don't have computers they can take home. Unlike Arlington and Alexandria, Chesterfield, and Rico and Albemarle, every single student in those schools gets a computer. In Fairfax, Prince William, and Stafford, nobody does. That's something I've been working on really hard. And then the last thing I'll highlight really quick before talk about the future is car title lending and predatory lending. I've been fighting these guys since I was elected. Car title lending was legalized in Virginia in 2010. It exploded in 2011 after out-of-state car title lending was authorized. Now there's 21 car title lenders up and down Route 1. There's too many of them. They take advantage of people. They take advantage of our military. They take advantage of low-income families. They take people's cars. They're bad, awful businesses, and I want to get rid of them. And I've been putting in legislation to deal with that. I tried to give our Board of Supervisors more authority to regulate them. That bill was rejected. I also put in legislation to prohibit these bait-and-switch tactics they use. That bill is going to pass next year if I'm reelected. Several colleagues of mine on the other side told me they'll work with me if the car title lenders won't fix the problem that we identified. So I've been working on that. In terms of the future, I want to see more transit in our community, both in Fairfax, Prince William, and Stafford. I've knocked almost, I think, 7,000 doors now in Fairfax and Prince William counties, most of them in Prince William, and people are not happy with the state of traffic. People in Fairfax County are tired of Route 1 gridlock. People in Prince William County are tired of I-95 gridlock. People in Stafford County are tired of I-95 gridlock. People are unhappy they're paying $10, $15, $20 tolls to get to work one way. And I'm hearing it on the doors a lot. We need to bring the metro down Route 1 in Highville Valley. We need to bring the metro from Springfield down to Lorton. We need to get it down to Woodbridge. We need to get it to Dale City. We need to get all the way to Dumfries and Quantico. And I'm happy to see that my opponent finally decided to get on board with that last month. But I've been preaching that gospel now for 6 years. We got to get more transit in Northern Virginia. There are 2 million more people coming to the DC metro area in the next 20 years. And they're either going on top of where people live today, and they're riding on trains and buses, or we're going to put them in farm fields in Stafford, Prince William, and Fauquier counties and Loudoun counties. And I'd rather see more density and more smart growth instead of continuing to redevelop all these farm fields. The second thing I'm going to do, if I'm elected to the state senate, we've got to get more money in our education system. The state has just disregarded its obligation to fund both secondary and higher education in the last, ever since the last recession. And our budgets have been tight. We've been under a lot of pressure. Our economy's been flat. We haven't had a lot of money to spend, but there are things we can do to raise money for education. Number one, we can expand Medicaid. Expanding Medicaid would bring $180 million of your taxpayer dollars, would free up $180 million of your taxpayer dollars to spend on other priorities in Virginia, number one. Number two, we could get rid of some of these crazy tax credits that are out there, like the coal tax credit. We currently spend $20 million of your taxpayer dollars a year to subsidize about 3,000 coal jobs in Southwest Virginia. It doesn't make any sense anymore. We also have crazy things like a tax exemption for yachts. We fund tax credits for private schools, which are brand new, which I think never should have been enacted in the first place. But there's a lot of ways we can find money without raising taxes. But there's money out there for our schools, and they need it desperately. Our teachers are not paid enough. We don't have enough classrooms. We got to start doing something about early childhood education. And then the last thing I've been talking to folks on the doors about, there's a lot of things to talk about, is these predatory lenders. Predatory lending is out of control on Route 1. It is completely out of control. There are 21 now. 21 of these guys between Alexandria, Fort Belvoir, and Quantico. And I heard just the other day there might be a new one opening next to the Krispy Kreme up on Route 1. So you can get a donut, you can get a car title loan with your donut, I guess. These guys, they made the statistics that the State Corporation Commission put out, which is derived from the data they provide, says that 1 out of 4 people default on their car title loan in the first 60 days. That's how successful these loans are and how much these people need it. 1 out of 4 people default. 19,000 cars in Virginia were repossessed last year alone. That's 19,000 cars. That's about 500 cars per Senate district. This thing, that's 500 of your neighbors. Probably more than that, given the economics of this district, lost their vehicles, which means they probably can't get to work, which means they probably lost their job, which means their problems cascaded even further. It didn't solve their problem at all. Car title lenders are well known to target the military. They're well known to target active duty, target low-income families. They also target people that don't speak English well and don't understand the forms they're signing. These loans are 264%, 30% per month. I think that would be illegal. We need to give them a rate cap, just like we did the payday lenders at 36%. Cap it out. If they can't do business at 36%, then maybe they shouldn't do business. And that's another thing that I'm going to work on when I get back. So that's some of the stuff I'm working on. I was hoping again to be able to have some questions and be able to, so everybody could put us on the record. But I guess my opponent doesn't want to come tonight, and I'm happy to take any questions you all might have for me. So, anybody have any questions? Raise your hand. I'll be happy to call you. Yes, sir. Could you identify yourself and say where you live, just so I know?
Dennis Clark, down here in Woodbridge, just a few blocks away.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Wasn't there a usury fee or usury limit at one time on an interest rate? It was like 12%.
Yes, sir. Virginia still does have a usury rate, but it doesn't apply to certain types of licensed financial institutions. So the interest cap that we put on car title lenders is 30% per month, which comes out to an APR of 264%. There are other types of lenders like consumer finance. There's another type of finance entity called a consumer finance company, and they don't have any cap on their rate at all. And consumer finance companies traditionally have been very legitimate businesses, and they typically don't loan people money for more than about 30%, 35%. However, one of the things that Title Max did was they set up a consumer finance company subsidiary, got it separately licensed, and co-located it at all their car title loan locations. So they have people that come in that don't qualify for a car title loan. They switch them over to a consumer finance loan and give them one of those. Those same interest rates don't apply to certain kinds of banks and other entities as well. So the General Assembly gave them an exception to those rates, which is why they're allowed to lend at those rates. So,
Were those exceptions specific for these car title companies?
yes, sir. Yeah, what happened was in 2009, the state put a 36% interest rate cap on payday lenders.
Yeah.
And all the payday lenders said we can't make money doing that, and they fled the state. Mostly, not entirely, but mostly. There's still some weird ones, like there's some Indian tribes that do these internet payday loans that we can't control. And there's some payday lenders that operate from foreign countries over the internet that we can't control. But if they're licensed in the state, they can only do 36%. We put a cap on them. And what happened is the car title industry came in and said, there needs to be some kind of product for these people that can't otherwise get credit, people that can't get credit cards or can't get traditional loans. We have to have some product for them. And they said these car title products will be great because they already have an asset. We're going to limit what they can borrow as to half the value of the asset. We're going to say we can't sue them unless they defraud us. These are much better loans. We're not going to let them the problem with the payday loans is people get the cycle. They refinance one with another, with another, with another. You can't refinance a car title loans. They gave us this whole story about how these would be very safe products and people would get into them. And it hasn't worked out that way at all. And the song and dance we were given back in 2010 just hasn't played out at all. So, any other questions? Name and where you're from.
My name is Reginald Smith. I live on Tuxamid Road in the Hollywood District.
Yes, sir.
Just south of the Beltway. I have a question for both candidates concerning what you're talking about here, the car title loans. You mentioned that that they are predators toward both members of the military and veterans. I would like to specify how they are going after both members of the military. Obviously, there's Quantico, Wellbar, a number of different military organizations in this area, and how they're going after them and what could be done about that. And since I have already heard something about your comments on that subject, I would like your comments specifically on that and the comments of the representative of the mayor, whom I hoped to meet here this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I appreciate your question. It's been well documented that predatory lending has been a huge problem in the military for decades. And because of that, the federal government enacted I think it's the Federal Military Loan Act or Federal Military Credit Act. I can't remember the exact name of it, but the federal government did enact legislation that purported to place a 36% rate cap on any loan made to an active duty member of the military. And unfortunately, the predatory lenders have discovered other ways to get around it. There's other kinds of credit products they've started to offer to people to avoid that rate cap. In fact, I think it was 2 months ago, President Obama announced he was proposing new amendments to the Military Loan Act to cover all the various forms of credit that are being utilized to take advantage of active duty military, and not just payday loans and some of the more traditional ones that people have used. But it's been well documented that these industries, they focus on military bases, they cluster around military bases all over the country. If you go to just about any Virginia military installation, you will see these guys all around you. Not just these guys, but also check cashers, check cashers, we buy gold guys. You'll see some of and a lot of these businesses will co-locate a payday shop within a check cashing shop or within a car title shop. And it's hard to tell even what's inside some of these businesses sometimes because they don't put everything on the front door. So a lot of times what they do is they push them into other products. Sometimes they wait for them to leave the military or come back. I was talking with some of my friends in legal aid from Hampton Roads who explained to me some people that were discharged. They got the loan, they got called back, maybe on reserves, got called back, or they went after family members with these products. So, you know, a lot of our newly enlisted are pretty young. They're not financially sophisticated, so they're easy targets for these people. And you know, if you're a low-level private, you're not getting paid a lot. You maybe want to get a card. Sometimes it might seem like a way to go out and get something you want is to go out and use some credit. So they're there, and people see them, they think it's easy money, and they go get it. And the main way they go after them is by clustering around the bases. They're all over the place. So right now, right now at the gate at Fort Belvoir, right in Woodlawn, there's one about maybe 250, 500, maybe 1,000 yards right next to the cupcake shop, right outside the gate at Woodlawn. And I can probably count maybe 4 within 2 or 3 miles of Woodlawn going north. Going south, you know, as soon as you cross the Occoquan, they're all over the place. Yes, sir.
One comment about the rate, even the federal government rate, having gone to school under the GI Bill, I recall that I know that I never paid 36% on anything I borrowed, and I wouldn't have, and that sounds pretty damn high to me. But I would now like to hear the representative of the mayor on the same subject.
Again, Ms. W. Daniels or Mr. Carden, welcome you guys to answer on any of this if you'd like.
Yeah, I'll speak to you offline, Mayor, if I can speak to you about that.
Saw some more hands. Yes, sir.
I'm Tom Sachs from Manchester Lakes. I'm concerned about a couple of things, and they kind of tie together. As a gay man, these religious freedom bills are extremely scary because they are a throwback to the 30s and 40s, because it'll allow people under the guise of religious freedom to put up a sign that says, "We don't serve fags." And I want to know what you can do to ensure that that doesn't happen in Virginia. Also, people can get married in Virginia, gay couples, but then they can lose their jobs or their housing or any number of things because we don't have protections as gay people in Virginia. What can we do so that Virginia comes into the 21st century and recognizes the legal protections for all people?
Thanks for that question. There's a couple answers to that. First of all, in your last question first, we need to add sexual identity, or, lesbian, gay, sexual, gender,
Bisexual, transgender.
LGBT, everybody, to the suspect class categories in our fair housing laws. Delegate Simon put in legislation about that last year. It got killed. We need to add it to our employment discrimination laws, and not just a lot of people don't realize that we also have state employment discrimination laws that parallel federal laws. The state is actually can go farther than federal law does, and we don't have to wait for Congress. We need to do that. In terms of public accommodations, which I think is what you're mainly concerned about with the first part of your question, I think we're already covered there in the sense that I read in the paper, I think it was about 3 months ago when the last decision came out from the U.S. Supreme Court, that some of my colleagues in the House wanted to make this next General Assembly session all about religious freedom. And Virginia has had the statute of religious freedom on the books that Thomas Jefferson wrote since the founding of our state in 1776. And I'm not clear why our existing statute of religious freedom is inadequate for whatever purposes people feel like we need to have today. And so I don't think we need to change the law to make religious freedom any more than we have. We already have that in the First Amendment, and they've been pretty powerful in this country and pretty good at protecting people's ability to worship whoever they want to and however they want to. And so I don't think we need to do that.
But your Republican colleagues evidently are getting ready to introduce a bill that will go much further.
They want to create a bill that they hope would give people cover from discriminating
Right.
against people on those bases. They passed one bill about 3 years ago, which gave adoption agencies the right to discriminate against people on the basis of sexual identity, race, sex. Basically, the explanation we were given is that there are some adoption agencies that get money from the state that would like to be able to service a family that says they don't want to adopt a black child, or an agency that doesn't want to assist a lesbian gay couple or gay couple to adopt a child, or a family that says they don't want to adopt a child of a certain religion. We did pass legislation saying that was okay, and I actually put in budget amendments or helped try to pass budget amendments to undo all that. But it did pass, and that is the law in the state today, and that hasn't been challenged yet. But I think that's the kind of laws we're going to probably see coming. From my point of view, I also don't. I'm concerned about exactly what the motivation is, because I know a lot of religions are pretty opposed to divorce, and I've heard many clerks refusing to process divorce decrees. It just seems for some reason that people are very focused on marriage right now, and I have a hard time seeing the distinction there when I hear that clerks don't want to process those marriage licenses even after courts order them to, and to make clear that's the law of the United States, it's not the law of the land. So all I can tell you is I don't think our law needs to change, and if anything, we need to go the other direction, and we need to put things in our existing code to protect those classes. In the back.
Lavina Reed, and I'm from Warren, Virginia. Today there was a really tragic gun incident, shooting, and I'm just kind of curious about your position on gun control and gun reduction of gun presence in the public.
Yeah, that was a really sad moment, tragedy today down there in Franklin County. First of all, my family's from Franklin County. My grandparents grew up about 10 miles from Oneida, maybe even closer than that actually. And some of my cousins were actually emailing about it today. It really turned the world upside down there today, not just for the people who live there, but for those families. And you must, your heart goes out to them. The woman that, the reporter that was shot went to James Madison University, where I went also, was getting a lot of Facebook traffic from the JMU folks today about that. And of course, the cameraman, I think, was also Virginia Tech. And there's been a lot of social media outpouring on that. That whole event is tragic. We haven't found out yet the circumstances, I guess, around how the individual who shot them got the gun, or whether he was legally possessing it, or exactly what the circumstances were. But it's pretty clear that these incidents seem to be happening more and more and more in this country. And for some reason, we can't seem to do anything about it. Since I've been elected, I've supported, I've co-sponsored actually legislation to have magazine clip limits. We had I think it was Jerry Loeffner and Sung Bin Cho. Loeffner shot Gabby Giffords, and Sung Bin Cho, who shot, he was Virginia Tech. The two of them both used 30 bullet clips in handguns. And I don't think of somebody with a handgun will have a 30 bullet clip. I don't see that you need a 30 bullet clip for personal protection. The only time I think you need a 30 bullet clip, well, not the only time, I can say the only time, but I think a 30 bullet clip is something more military oriented, and I just don't think we ought to have those. And that legislation has never cleared committee in Virginia. I have no problem with anybody that wants to hunt. Virginia has the right to hunt in its constitution. That was approved by voters about 20 years ago, and no problem with hunting rifles. I have no problem with shotguns. But I do have concerns about weapons that are capable of delivering large amounts of bullets in a short period of time. I think we need to have a lot more restrictions on those than we do today. I also think Virginia needs to have universal background checks. Polls show that's supported by something like 87% of the voters. Right now, if you can't purchase a gun, it's very easy to go buy one on eBay, or to go buy one in a gun show in the parking lot, or buy one from somebody who's not a licensed firearm dealer. So I support more background checks. I think we need to do more on our concealed weapon permits. Right now, if you are admitted to inpatient drug treatment, inpatient mental health treatment, your concealed weapon permit isn't revoked. It just stays out there until you have to re-up within 5 years. I think there's things we can do to better be careful about our concealed weapon permits. So that's some of the things I think we can do. There's a whole set of issues about this. For example, last session we had to vote on a bill about shotguns and loaded shotguns in cars in traffic. And Virginia has legislation on the books that says localities are allowed to ban loaded shotguns in cars. Apparently Fairfax County hasn't done it yet. When I brought that to their attention in the middle of amending the ordinance to prohibit that. But my colleagues wanted to strip local governments of their ability to ban loaded shotguns in cars. And think about the last thing we need in DC traffic is loaded shotguns in cars. So if that's proposed again next year, I'll be happy to fight that as well. So that's some of the things. If you have another more specific question about firearms or weapons, I'm happy to try and address it. There's all kinds of issues about guns that we can talk about. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Martin Wilson, Bethel Precinct. Your position on capital punishment?
Capital punishment, I think, first of all, I don't support capital punishment. I haven't since I was elected for a lot of different reasons. Number one, I don't think it's applied fairly. Whether you get the death penalty or not, it tends to be a lot more of a function of what race you are, and what race your victim was, and how much money you have, more than it tends to be a function of what the crime was. It's just not clear to me that in our country that we're capable of applying that fairly. It also, it's incredibly expensive to put somebody to death. It takes a lot of time. It strings out these victims' families. The system costs are just astronomical. And I think we could better allocate those resources towards other types of law enforcement functions rather than putting people to death. I think they're more serious. I mean, obviously, you can I think we can put somebody in a cell and just house them for the rest of their life a lot more cheaply, and take that money and reallocate it and put it into rehabilitation or put it into enforcing other crimes or defending other appeals or other things instead of that. I also don't believe that the death penalty is really a deterrent to many people. I don't think the death penalty keeps anyone from killing anyone. I think people kill for a lot of different reasons that don't have anything to do with what the punishment's going to be. And so I don't think it's really worked. We're also very out of step with the rest of the world. The United States, in terms of the number of people we execute a year, we're right up there with I think Saudi Arabia and Iraq and Iran, China. There's not another European country that allows it still. The majority of our states, I think, have banned it now. I think. If we're not in the majority of the states, we're close to that. But right now it's the law of the land in Virginia. And I also have concerns about lethal injection and exactly how that works. The electric chair, I put in legislation about that. We're one of the 2 states in the country that still uses an electric chair, allows it. Lethal injection, we're using all kinds of drug experiments now because we don't have, manufacturers are starting to refuse to provide this country with the cocktails necessary to execute a person. It's just, the whole system it's falling apart, it's not functional, it's becoming expensive, and I just don't think it works anymore, and it serves its purpose. So that's my answer. You might have a different view on it, and that's where I stand on it. Yes, ma'am?
Do you think that there is a growing sentiment for ending the death penalty in the state? I'm talking about in the State House.
Yeah, there is. I mean, we had a death penalty debate last session. It was the first time we had one on the floor in the 6 years I've been there. And the bill revolved around Senator Saslaw's legislation to make the manufacturers of the drugs a secret, because a lot of manufacturers don't want to provide the drugs if they're going to be subject to subpoenas and protests and things. And so myself and Delegate Jim LeMonion, who's a Republican from Western Fairfax, led the fight on the floor of the House of Delegates to kill the legislation. And the opposition to the bill was bipartisan. It was not, I think there's, I mean, you know, when the House of Delegates, we have only 32 out of 100 votes. So it's hard for us to do anything without any Republicans agreeing with us. And I think the bill got 54 votes against it. It was about, so that makes, I think it was like 31 Democrats and 32 Democrats and about 23, 24 Republicans. And there are several of my colleagues on the other side who've told me they have concerns about the way the death penalty is being applied. There are a few folks who are Catholic and who have religious objections to it on the other side. But I think people are starting to realize that it doesn't, you know, for the reasons I said a minute ago, that there might be a better way. So, yeah.
Bethany Peterson from Mount Vernon area. Just to follow on the sentiment of the death penalty position in Virginia, wasn't there a hearing before the Senate, Virginia Senate Committee Toddy Puller was on, about expanding the application of the death penalty to first responders, more than police officers, maybe ride-alongs or people who accompany them, and that was voted down and didn't make it out of that Senate committee, correct?
There's been a few bills proposed to expand the death penalty. That was one of them, to expand the killing of a firefighter or first responder in the course of employment. The other one was to expand the trigger man rule. In my first 2 sessions, I think we saw that legislation, but we haven't seen it since. That was kind of a reaction to the Malvo situation, I think. But that bill passed the House and died in the Senate. And interestingly, one of the turning points, I think, in the debate in the Senate was when there was a gentleman who used to push the button for the electric chair executions in Virginia, who came and testified to the committee about what it did to him emotionally. And after the senators heard from him, the legislation died in committee on a bipartisan basis. I mean, he was the guy that had to execute people, and he's still thinking about it, and he gave some very powerful testimony. Ma'am, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, my question is about redistricting.
What was your name?
Grace White in the Woodbridge area.
Okay.
Redistricting reform, nonpartisan. Any thoughts on that?
I wholly support nonpartisan, not bipartisan, nonpartisan redistricting. I don't think bipartisan is just a poor substitute for what we do today. I think nonpartisan redistricting is the way to go. Our current seats are horribly gerrymandered by both parties. The Senate was drawn by the Democrats, the House by the Republicans. The consequences of that just cost us a couple lawsuits, a lot of legal bills, and a lot of people who are not representative of, I think, the districts that they represent. Right now, the situation is basically that the elected officials pick their voters instead of, or the elected officials, the majority pick their voters instead of the voters picking their elected officials. And I think the reason we got here today, and the reason it's gotten so bad, is because of computers. A lot of people don't realize the power of computers and how they're involved in this. But I was talking to Senator Poehler about this when she first did it back, I think it was in 1991. It was 91, she was telling me that they had to sit around the table with index cards, and every member had a card, a card for each precinct, and they would trade cards to figure out, who got what. And then somebody would have to sit there with a calculator and recalculate every time to make sure they were, had the right numbers in each district. And she was just going on about how it just took forever. And today, you can basically just take a computer and with a couple of clicks, do whatever, it bounces out, totalizes, it's very simple. Or you can actually, there's software that exists today where you can really hyper-target down to the census block level. And it's become so cheap and so efficient and so easy to draw districts to do whatever you want that what used to take hours and time and was very complicated with index cards and calculators can be done in seconds, and with sort of a ruthless effectiveness. And I think you're seeing the consequences of it in Washington, D.C., where there's very few people that are elected from seats that swing anymore, and you also see it. Also see it in Virginia. I mean, we're in a state that voted Democrat. We have 5 Democratic statewide elected officials. The majority of people who voted in congressional elections voted Democratic. Our congressional delegation is 8 Republicans and 3 Democrats, and our House of Delegates is 68-32 Republican, which is clearly not where the polity of the state is in terms of its orientation. So I support nonpartisan redistricting. If I ever get the chance to vote for it, which I haven't yet, I'd be happy to vote for that as a bill or to put it in the Constitution of Virginia.
Are you, very quick follow-up, are you familiar with the different redistricting reforms in other states, and is there one that you particularly like of those?
I haven't studied it carefully, so I know there's some independent commissions, some have judges decide, but you have to be very careful about how you design it. So again, you don't get in a bipartisan situation where you have, half Democrats and half Republicans in a room arguing with each other and cutting deals. What was interesting is Virginia, we had a competition last year where we asked the colleges to draw. There was a contest, and they had to draw the most number of competitive districts, or they had to draw the most compacted contiguous districts. And there's different criteria you can use to evaluate this. And I remember we presented these maps in our caucus one day, and a couple members were like, well, my house isn't in my district anymore. And we were all kind of like, it's because it's not your district. It's the people's district, and nobody cares where you live. That's not the point. And so, elected officials tend to get a real sense of territoriality about their district and a sense of ownership about it, and they just don't need to be at the table when we make those decisions.
Speaking of voting, we just,
Name and where you-
Mary Payton, I'm from Mount Vernon District. Speaking of voting, we just celebrated the 50th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act, and yet we're losing some ground on that since the Supreme Court decision and since a lot of states are tightening up laws about voting requirements. And a little bit of that's happening in Virginia. We had a state law for a photo ID, which was supposed to be free, but I calculated on the Metro online computer that it would have taken me, if I didn't have a car, for which I'd have a driver's license, but if I didn't have a car or a driver's license, it would take me about 5.5 hours round trip to get down to the registrar's office to get one of those free photos. So that was kind of restrictive, I thought, on people in my neighborhood. So what's coming up next on this? What's happening? What do you see happening next with the voting? We want to make it more easier for people to vote, and have more time to vote, and have more access to voting. And do you see that going? Which way do you see that going this year?
It depends on who's in control of the Senate and who's in the governor's mansion, really. I mean, Governor McAuliffe had to veto some bills last year. One bill we passed would require people to provide a copy of their photo ID with their absentee ballot application. That legislation hit the floor of the House, and then in the floor debate, I stood up with the sponsor and I asked him how he expected a soldier in Afghanistan who's out in the desert to be able to copy his driver's license to stick it in with his absentee ballot and he mailed it back. The gentleman then asked for a recess. 2 days later, gave a speech about how he was offended that anybody would suggest he wanted to do anything to active duty military, and he wanted to put an amendment on his bill to accept that. And so then I asked him next how he expected somebody who was incarcerated on a misdemeanor to be able to make a copy of their driver's license when it was in an evidence bag. And he said he didn't care about that. But as soon as you go down this road, this slippery slope, you get into all kinds of problems, which is why I think our existing laws on absentee ballots are fine in terms of identity. That can be identity requirements. I don't think we need to have photo ID on absentee ballots. We'll probably see that again. We'll probably see more attempts to rein in absentee voting instead of expanding it, which is where we ought to be going. I think we ought to repeal photo ID. I don't think we will, but we should. Texas's laws, I think, were just declared illegal as a violation of the Voting Rights Act by federal court. Virginia's might be coming in right after that. From my point of view, they constitute a poll tax. They also constitute an undue burden. I'll tell you, 6 years ago, I'll never forget, I was knocking doors up in around West Point High School, and I was talking to a 80-year-old gentleman and about voting, and he said he would vote for me, and I was looking at the list, and I said, you know, my list here says there's a woman here who's 105. And he said, yep, she's right there. And she was sitting in a chair. Her name was Maddie Lou Ware. She'd be 111 today. I doubt she's still alive, but she might be. She had signed up, she had registered to vote for President Obama in 2008. And I don't think Maddie Lou Ware had a photo ID. Because at 105, I don't think she was driving anywhere. And she probably didn't go down to DMV to get an ID card. And I think it's pretty outrageous that we would ask somebody who's 105 years old to go get a photo ID so they can exercise their constitutional right. There's about 30 nuns on the top of top of Hopkins Lane, top of the hill on Beacon Hill. There's 30 nuns that live in a monastery. I don't think they have IDs because they don't drive. I work in a building every day, go to court frequently, where I watch probably about 3 or 4 dozen people every single day surrender their ID. You know, I don't think that their right should be limited to participate in an election because they happen to be in court for their speeding ticket or whatever their court case was within a week of when the election was. And you know, I think the actual incidence of voting fraud in Virginia is about 0%. Nobody has demonstrated to me in any of the floor debates we've had over the last 6 years exactly who all these people are who are trying to commit felonies to vote one at a time. They don't exist. So, I mean, these are solutions in search of problems, and I think that most of these bills need to go die a quiet death, and if anything, they need to go in the other direction to make voting easier and easier. But given the current constituency of the legislature, I don't see that happening for a while. Yes, sir. You have another question.
Dennis Clark again. Two things. I have 3 adopted kids. You talked about that earlier. One from 3 different agencies. David Livingston Foundation, the Hope Foundation, and Catholic Family East Services. And I did some of my own legal work until the final 5. But I did notice discrimination of the religious bound organizations that did adoption work. And to me, when that religious organization opens up their door to the public, they should abide by the public law, not by the religious law. somewhere along the line is that once they pass that door of public access or public, hiring or evaluation, then they have to follow the public law. So I think there can be some clear things set up because of that.
Well, that's the way it was until we passed that law 4 years ago, and I thought that the existing law was fine, but what happened was the agencies you're talking about wanted to access state money or state resources in order to do their job, and they needed that in the law to be able to do business the way they wanted to, and that's probably the law, and I'd be happy to get rid of it, but I don't think my colleagues would right now.
Then the other thing is on your transportation issue, is that study available to the public? That was done on Route 1?
It's 500 pages long.
Yeah. My background, I had some transportation background.
Yeah, if you want to Google, if you go on Google, you Google the Route 1 multimodal alternatives analysis. The Department of Rail and Public Transit has the study up. You can download it in PDF format, or if you want, you can send me an email, I'll email you a link, or I'll email you the document. But it's pretty long, it's pretty thorough. It was a $2 million study, and I find it interesting. Most of you probably fall asleep before you get 10 pages of it. But
So do you know the consultant that did the study? Is it Parsons or Duluth Kapler?
No. AECOM, I think is who we used, is that right, Meg? Yeah, I think the state hired AECOM to run the study. It was done in conjunction with DRPT, but AECOM did most of the logistics work behind it. And they had a couple other people they subcontracted with, like to do the public engagement, some other pieces of it, but it's exactly what we need to do for the Prince William piece. And actually, we originally proposed that Prince William County be included in the study, but the Prince William County Department of Transportation said they did not want to be included, which is why Prince William County was not included in the study. Any other questions? Anyone else? No other questions? You guys got me cornered for another 30 minutes. Somebody else wants to nail me down? Stuffy Daniels, no questions for me?
Another transportation.
Not tonight.
All right.
Do you know the study included early purchase right aways?
What the study did was it spec'd out I think what people have finally realized after 50 years of bad road building and development choices is people have figured out that the transportation decisions and land use decisions are linked together, and you can't decide one without the other. The entire Route 1 corridor today is the most heavily bused corridor in all Fairfax County. Fairfax County is the most heavily bused corridor in all Northern Virginia. Yet none of the development along the road is oriented towards pedestrians. And that's why the delegate seat I represent has double the average pedestrian deaths of any delegate seat of the entire state. It's about 5, 6, 7 people a year that are killed walking around on Route 1 in the 44th district. And so what the study said was, what kind of transportation, what kind of transit do we want to have, and what kind of land use do we want to have to support that? And what they looked at is long-term population trends. There's 2 million people that are coming to the DC metro area, and how feasible would it be to enhance densities in a way that would support different kinds of transit? And what they did was they recommended a couple different things. One was that we need to make Route 1 6 lanes the entire way, all the way from the Beltway all the way down to Woodbridge. Right now it gets bigger and smaller, bigger and smaller. Number 2, we need to build sidewalks along the entire length of it. A sidewalk down one side, a multi-use path down the other for cyclists, and who knows what we'll be riding in 10 years. Maybe we'll be on a Segway or something, I don't know. But a multi-use path. And then they recommended that we build a median dedicated bus rapid transit system for 14 miles from the Huntington Metro all the way down to Fort Belvoir, and then those buses would move into traffic before they would terminate in Woodbridge at the Woodbridge VRE. And that would be built in 3 phases. And the 4th phase would be a 2-stop metro extension. And to accompany all that, we would have to significantly enhance densities along the entire corridor, and we would also have to completely change the street grid. Because right now, none of Route 1's parcels are interconnected. Prince William County has the exact same problem. You have a bunch of parcels with development on them, but they're not connected in a meaningful way. If you want to do transit-oriented development, big town center style developments, the parcels have to connect, so that your only way to get from one store to another is to go back out on Route 1 and drive, or go out on Route 1 to take something. You can actually ride a bike along this, back in the back, a few blocks off, or you can drive a car a few blocks off. Right now, Route 1 is so congested because the only way to get between parcels or side roads mainly is to get on Route 1, so everybody has to get on Route 1 and it jams. And so, as part of that, you have to completely replan the corridor. And actually, Fairfax County has just appointed a new task force called, Embark? Is that what it's called, meeting?
Yeah,
Embark?
embark.
Embark Route 1 or Embark something like that, where they've appointed 14 people to basically redesign the entire comprehensive plan for the Route 1 corridor. And it's really exciting stuff. I think in 20 years from now, the Route 1 corridor in Fairfax is going to look a lot more like the sort of metro corridor in Arlington, like Clarendon, Courthouse Metro, not Roslyn, not Boston, nothing over 12 stories, but denser stuff, and only down the Hagler Valley, not all the way down into Woodlawn or that area. And I think Prince William County is going to start to see more and more of that. They're going to see pressure do more and more of that, but they got to get their transit plan, long-term transit plans in place before the big developers will start to come down and invest that kind of capital. So there's a lot of planning we have to do, a lot of studies and a lot of planning. And a lot of people don't like to hear that, but that's how you do it. It takes, if you're going to replan thousands of acres that people are heavily invested in, you got to have a lot of public notice, you have to have hearings, and you have to do studies to show that it's going to work before you can start making big plans like that.
I just wanted to add, if people didn't know, at the intersection of North Kings Highway, South Kings Highway, Route 1, there will be another high-density town center type development going in where this Shoppers is, because Jeff McKay is really focused on this smart growth. And his lead district land use advisory committee approved all the rezonings and everything else required.
Yeah, no, the Huntington Metro Station is going to be radically transformed in the next 5 years. There's all kinds of new development going in there. And Metro brings redevelopment, Metro brings jobs, Metro brings a better quality of life, and that's why I want to see it come down to Prince William County and also further into Fairfax. I think it could be transformative for our area. No other questions? 2 more questions. You already asked me first.
My name is Bill Moses. I'm from Kingstown. And I was just wondering, are there any firm dates envisioned where you and your opponent will be definitely coming to debate, or is this all up in the air? I glanced at these letters that the Foreman group has published, and I can't get a handle on whether there will ever be, you two will ever come, both sides will come together to debate at all.
There's one debate, the Potomac Local newspapers, it's an online newspaper for Eastern Prince William. They have scheduled one debate, I think it's October 17th. Is that right, Shannon? Do you remember the date? 19th?
Yeah.
If I have my phone, I can tell you. If somebody else has my phone, they won't be looking at it.
So there's one firm agreed.
That's a debate. There are also 3 candidate forums, which are not debates. One is on August 31. The League of Women Voters has scheduled it. They have told us that each of us, I think, gets 5 minutes to speak. We can take no questions. I don't think that's a debate. My opponent calls that a debate. There are 2 more forums like that. The Mount Vernon League Chamber has scheduled one where they've told each of us we can speak for 10 minutes, no questions. And I think there's another League of Women Voters forum, I think is the other one. Same kind of deal. Typically we're up on stage with 10 or 12 other candidates. It's a big crowd. We give our speeches, move on. But the only debate, I think, is the Potomac Local one. Shannon, you wanted to correct me?
Technically debate, right, the August 31st forum, if you will, there will be questions taken.
Well, the email I got said that they will give us the questions and we can consider them, but they will not let us answer them because there's not enough time for it. But
No. There are I think they're limited on time. I got the same email. 1 to 2 minute responses, maybe perhaps no rebuttals, I think was.
I'll go back and reread it.
Because I asked for clarification on that. But questions will be taken on that. It will be televised. It's August 31st on Fairfax County Public Access Television.
All right.
But that's your first forum,
Right.
if you will, where all the candidates will be there, and that has been planned, as well as the Potomac Local debate. is
Right.
planned.
That's a debate.
and there are a couple of other dates that, and debates that are in the works, and that Mayor Foreman has committed to. He's actually got 6 on the schedule now. So we'll just wait to see, but be happy to provide you the information.
Okay, another hand in the back.
Yes, Ron Chase, Mount Vernon area. You stated earlier that there was going to be a re-examination of the comprehensive plan for Hopper Valley. What's the timeline for the resubmittal to county for that?
Right now, my understanding is the timeline is about 4 years. Supervisor Highland and I have talked about pushing it up to 2 years. And I think he was gonna potentially propose that this fall to try and speed it up. So, but staff wanted to take a full 4 years to look at it and redo the whole thing. Many of us thought it was too long, including Dan Stork, who's running for the Board of Supervisors there, Paul Krizek, who's running for the House of Delegates. So that's the time frame they're looking at. And I'll also just tell you, Ron, one thing that I'm concerned about with that current group, I think it's a great group. It's got a lot of very highly qualified people on it, but I'm not sure there's many people on the group that live on Route 1. And we need to make sure that the group is representative of the community that it's looking to replan. So
Well, how do you get some people?
it's probably too late for that, but we just need to make sure that voices are heard from, because it's there's a lot of people whose lives and housing choices are going to be affected by whatever comes, and so we need to make sure that everybody's views are taken into account before something's proposed. Any other questions? Aaron Lee? Yeah.
I'm Erin from Woodbridge. This is a question slash, I'm looking for a response. Recently you attended an event, a fish fry event with Andrea Bailey at Gin Memorial Park in Dumfries. It came to my attention that the party at that location that you were in attendance at, there was garbage left all over the park, and that park my 6-year-old son plays at. There were water bottles, empty chip bags, a lot of campaign literature left that had both yours and Andrea Bailey's information on them. And there were trash bags left on the park benches, overflowing trash cans and everything. And I'm just wondering, can you please comment on that and explain why this was allowed to happen at an event, considering the fact that you've had an endorsement from the Sierra Club and you have touted yourself as quite an environmentalist?
Yeah, Andrea had her, Andrea, for those of you who don't know, Andrea Bailey is running for the Board of Supervisors for the Pelham District in Prince William County, and she had 2 events on Saturday. I think it was Saturday, right? One was a fish fry at Gin Memorial Park, and she had a ice cream thing right after it. And I was knocking doors down in Triangle Precinct, I think. Yeah, before that, which is about 10 minutes away. I hopped off the doors, ran up there right when the speeches were starting. I came, I gave a speech. I shook hands for maybe 45 minutes. I did not eat any fish because I'm vegetarian. And talked to a couple voters, and I left. I handed out maybe 5 to 10 grip cards, maybe, and I left. And the party was still going on when I left. It was Andrea's event, and I didn't see when I was there. They were still cooking fish. So there were 10 other candidates there. Justin Wilk gave a speech. Ryan Sawyers gave a speech. Rick Smith gave a speech. Can't remember Justin. And Justin gave a speech. Josh King, I don't think he was there. It's not in the district he's running for. There was about 6 or 7 people there. Interestingly, my opponent has chosen to blame me for the entire thing, but I guess that's his choice. It wasn't my event, and I don't know what condition it was in. The pictures I saw had pictures of trash that were not in the vicinity that I was in, or the people that I saw were in, and I'm not sure who left it. So, but yeah, I don't like trash. I don't like litter. I do a up every year, and I'm very proud of my environmental record, and if you have any votes you'd like to talk about, I'd be happy to talk about it. Any other questions? No other questions? Mary, your hand's creeping up again. No?
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, I don't know if Prince William has a big stormwater problem, but like we do in Fairfax, and you really do a big cleanup around around Mount Vernon district with the streams every spring. That's a real major effort. And wondering what the state might be able to do to help us out there with our old decrepit, dilapidated,
The best thing the state can
stormwater
do to help
system.
stormwater is extend the metro. People ask me why, it's because if you extend the metro, everything will get redeveloped, and everything will get reconstructed to modern stormwater standards. And that's a whole lot cheaper than taxpayers paying for it all. 'Cause right now, the EPA is coming down on us like a load of bricks. They're about to come down on Fairfax County, Prince William, every locality that has a stormwater system, and make them retrofit their systems. Fairfax County estimates it's gonna cost over $100 million to taxpayers to retrofit their systems. And so, in Prince William, they've got a similar problem because all the infrastructure on Route 1 is all so old. The best thing we could do to fix that problem, to save taxpayers a lot of money, is to redevelop. One of the things we do at the state level, which I suggested, was we just passed legislation 2 years ago that creates a formula by which we make transportation funding decisions. And one of the criteria that's supposed to be considered is environmental criteria. One of the things they do not consider, however, is stormwater. It's just air quality is what they look at. And I suggested that we look at stormwater as part of that, so that if a project's gonna save taxpayers $10 or $20 million of stormwater retrofits, that ought to get counted in terms of whether we fund the project before another project or not. And I asked the administration to put that in a manual, kind of late in the process when I got in. I'll probably put in legislation about that next year to ask that be considered. That's one thing we can do. But stormwater is a huge problem. Most people don't realize it, but if you go out in the creeks, all the creeks around here are dead now. They're biologically dead because they've been so beaten up by stormwater over the last 40 years. And we gotta fix the problem because they're just turning into these gutted out, biologically dead ruts in the ground, and end up feeding a lot of trash into the dump. It's a big problem. A lot of people sort of out of sight, out of mind, but we need to fix it. Any other questions? No? We have one more?
Stormwater, just a note, the Princeton County Schools have an environmental department, and they did I don't know whether it was mandated or whatever, but they did a thing where they went around to the schools and made corrections to things that have been done for years. Things like dumping floor wax down the storm line, or strippers to strip the floors and that kind of stuff. So it's pretty much a regulation now for them, in their school board.
I'd like to see them all put solar on their roofs. They got more rooftops than anybody in the county.
Yeah, they sure do. It's not always efficient.
No. Any other questions? No? No other questions? Okay, well, folks, we have some food in the back, so thanks for coming out.